Okay. Let's go. Is it okay, Alice? I can start. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. Good morning for the San Francisco side and good afternoon for the Parisian or French side. Welcome to the third edition of France versus California. This edition is on the food industry, so what's next in the food industry. And it's co-organized with Magazine Challenge, which is the leading business magazine in France. For our friends of California, if you don't know Magazine Challenge, it's a very well-known magazine. I am Laurence, the executive director of the French American Chamber of Commerce of San Francisco. We are co-organizing this event. So if you don't know us, just a quick presentation and then I'll let the speaker start. So we are a non-profit, non-governmental organization. We're part of the French American Chamber of Commerce network and part of the Chamber of Commerce network in the world. We foster and engage the French American business community in the Bay Area, and we help companies to set up and develop their activities in the US. So we do that with our members. We have members companies in all the sectors of industry, and a lot of them are also, believe it or not, but in San Francisco, a lot in the food industry as well. It's a very dynamic industry that we have. We have a lot of events. And of course, right now it's paused, but we're going to organize, I hope, many again soon. And a lot of corporate services. So we organize a lot of learning expedition, business mission, recruitment, and visa extra. So why this partnership with Magazine Challenge? So each year, just to give you a history of our relationship with Challenge, each year we organize the French American Business Award. And by the way, Pascal Rigaud, who is one of our speakers, is one of the laureates of the food industry of the French American Business Award. And we highlight all the leaders in different industries. So in the tech industry, food, wine industry. And it became kind of a rendezvous each year that we can't do this year. But Magazine Challenge was also doing every year an article on the French leaders in Silicon Valley and California. And so we met with Gilles and we found that we had a lot in common and that we could co-organize the communication of the French American Business Award. So this year was supposed to be, Challenge was supposed to be our partner on the French American Business Award, but since it's postponed, we decided to organize, waiting for 2021, this series of live panel sessions with leaders of California and Silicon Valley and leaders in France. And it was a good way to also welcome leaders of France here in California and maybe have new speakers. And so we're very glad to have also Julia Bejaoui, who is the co-founder and owner of Frischti in France, and Pascal today, who is the co-founder, owner of La Boulange. For those who don't know the history, I mean, Pascal is going to tell everything about it, but we're well known here because it was bought by Starbucks. And then now Pascal is back again with La Boulange and a new project as well, I know. So we're very happy to have you today. Also, what I wanted to tell you is that next year we will organize with Challenge a learning expedition that is going to take place in Silicon Valley with group from France. It's open to the public, so if you're interested in participating, you can contact us as well. We'll send all the information, and on that, I'm gonna give the opportunity to talk to Gilles Fontaine, who is the editor-in-chief of Challenge and doing us the honor to moderate the panel today. Thank you, Gilles, for your time today.
Thank you very much, Laurence, and hello everyone. Good morning to all of you in San Francisco and in the US, and good evening to all of you in France. So it's a great pleasure to meet you again for this new session of our live events, California versus France. And today we'll be discussing, as Laurence said, the future of the food industry, a very relevant topic, of course, for all of us. The coronavirus has shaken up the sector, which had already been undergoing major transformation for several years. Thousands of innovative startups have emerged and changed the rules of the game in this whole area, from the way food is made to the way it is consumed and delivered. And behind these topics, there is also the plain and very simple question of how to feed 10 billion people in the coming decades. And for this new live discussion, we are very proud, of course, to have brought together a panel of three. Well, actually, Quentin will not be here, but Julia will join us for the whole session. Great entrepreneurs. Pascal Rigaud, who was born in France, but he became a star in the US, unfortunately for us, where he founded Baybread and previously La Boulange, which was sold to Starbucks. And on this side of the Atlantic, we have Juliette Bijawi. She founded a few years ago one of the most French successful food tech, Frischti. And Juliette, well, could you tell us the little story of Frischti? Because I don't think our American friends know you very well yet.
Just Julia, before you start, I'm sorry, just on the logistic side, we're going to start the discussion with Gilles, Julia, and Pascal. You have a chat on the bottom of your screen. If you want to ask questions during the discussion, feel free to send any question, and Gilles will read it as the conversation continues. So just so you know, and exactly. Otherwise everybody is on mute. Thank you very much.
Of course. So hi everyone. I'm very glad to be here. So I co-founded Frischti with Quentin, who's my partner as well at work and in life. We're both have 2 kids together, and it was 5 years ago, and with one single ambition, make people from the cities eat well every day. So we started the company from something that we lived on a daily basis, meaning how can we do when you work a lot and you don't have a lot of time to cook, to buy some fresh products? How can we eat better? And so we started to realize that a lot of our friends were in the same situation, and we thought previously we had a company in the beauty e-commerce, and we thought, well, the tech hasn't done anything yet to solve this food problem, how to eat better and how to simplify the access to good food. And so we thought, how can we digitalize or use tech to bring good food to people? So we created Frischti and now Frischti. So what you can find on our website or applications, it's every day 60 freshly cooked meals without any preservatives and only seasonal products that are cooked in our kitchens, as well as a grocery store with fruits and vegetables direct from local producers, meat and fish, cheese, etc. And so for you live in San Francisco, so to reference to something to some companies that you know, it's kind of a mix of Muncherry and Good Eggs, which are two companies that we used to look because they started to develop approximately the same time as we did. We deliver in Paris in 20 minutes, so it's a very, very fast delivery, and we have approximately 750 SKUs. And so our model relies on really three big pillars. So how to combine good food, affordable food, and convenience, and it relies on two strong market tendencies, which is that people are craving for convenience, extra convenience. We're all used to order anything and it gets to our feet in just 5 minutes. So delivery isn't still very it's starting to boom on food and grocery, but it's still a very little industry compared to the food industry in general. And the second tendency that we firmly believe is that also people are craving for good food. It's really a rising trend towards food quality, transparency, sustainability, authenticity. And so everything that we have and that we sell is really checked and matches our quality chart. So it's not premium in price, but it's a really premium offer in terms of quality and freshness. So Gilles, I don't know if we have, just to complete the picture, we have 350 people working in the company, in the kitchens, in our logistics centers to prepare the orders. We also have 500 delivery men who are working as independent contractors for us on the platform that we created. So we integrated a lot of the value chain. We have a very, very integrated model, which allows us to really master the quality of what we do and have a very strong brand. Because since we design the recipes, for example, and cook ourselves all the recipes that we sell, of course, we have a very differentiated inventory that allows us to have a strong appeal in Paris because, well, people find a really good value for money in what we do.
Thank you, Julia. That was a very complete and very detailed picture of what Frischti is and the story. Thank you. Pascal, you have maybe a different story. You left France about 30 years ago to live in the US, in the Bay Area, where you launched your first company, and you are already a serial entrepreneur. But what's your vision when you launched La Boulange? How many years ago now? Was it 20, 25 years ago?
25 years ago, 22 years ago on the retail level. I had a company in France that I sold, and I had to pay so much taxes after that I decided that I will never open another company in France. So I took my bag and I decided to go to the US. And then, funny enough, 2 or 3 years ago, I opened a new company in France. So you never know what the future is going to. It's going to be.
So that's the good part of the story, right?
It's a great part of the story because I think Europe and France is ready with young entrepreneur like Julia, and it's kind of an interesting place to do business today. It's challenging, and but I really enjoyed the idea of doing business in both sides of the Atlantic. It's completely different and interesting. So yes, I founded La Boulange 23 years ago, and had the chance to, with the idea of bringing great food, great French food, exactly the way we knew it in France. We grew up with no big croissants, no bread that didn't taste or look like the one we were used to have in France. So with the idea of no tricking. I mean, exactly the same product. People will like it or not, but that's what we're going to do. And but most importantly, with great value. So trying to bring the real stuff at the right price for the consumer, and with all at the time was kind of unique. It's all organic flours and so forth. So we invested in our own milling operation in Utah and try to control the entire chain from the grain to the final product. And that's helped us tremendously to grow and tell a story that really nobody was telling at the time. And a few years later, we grow the company to 1,500 people, and we had factories in LA, in San Francisco, 25 stores in San Francisco, and then Starbucks. Decided that we could help them to upgrade their food program, and made us an offer. We didn't refuse it. Worked for Starbucks for 3 years to double the food sales at Starbucks from 1.5 billion to 3 billion in a little bit less than 3 years. With great ingredients. Unfortunately, not telling the right story all the time, and tired of it. And they asked me if I wanted to get my company back at one point, and I said yes, but I don't have any money to buy it back from you, so you're gonna have to give it to me. So they, we had a fantastic deal. We were able to take the company back, and we are growing it again, and it's, you know, super exciting. People in San Francisco were very happy to basically find the soul of our company again. And you know, it's since then we're enjoying what we are doing. We're doing this, I think, this great adventure in Europe as well, and trying to get through the COVID-19 crisis as much as we can, learning a lot from it, definitely. And
what did you learn from it, Pascal? What changed? What is that something? Of course, nobody could expect what happened over the past 2 months, but how did
well,
you?
I think you, Gilles, you just said nobody could expect, but actually everybody could expect it. I mean, it's just a matter of listening and looking and watching what's happening in the world in general. And so what I learned about it, it's that it could happen again. I don't know if it's going to be COVID or a virus or anything else. So you've got not only to be ready to have you know, things like that are going to happen, probably more and more in the future. So be ready for it. And also, what do you do to try to avoid that to happen again as much as you can at your own level, to try to have as much impact as possible on you know, how we grow stuff in the world, what kind of agriculture is it, what's going to be the future of that, what's the climate change impact is going to be on our daily life and on the world's life. I think that's what it is. It tells you that you know, a lot of people have been talking about a lot of things for a lot of years, and I think now it's probably time to kind of listen to them a little bit more and do something that could have an impact on the way we are going to live in the next years or so.
Julia, what did this crisis, this coronavirus crisis, change for Frischti and for you? In France, of course, maybe the American people here that don't know about it, but you had some issues with one of your subcontractors who employed apparently workers who were sometimes undocumented and not always paid. How is that possible? What happened? And beyond that, what did this whole crisis change for Frischti? Your microphone is maybe.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, I was saying on a macro level, I'm totally aligned with what Pascal just said, meaning it's going to really accelerate conscience and desire for people to buy things more responsibly and considering their impact on the whole chain. And I think what this period also learned to all of us is that we can buy less things, but buy things that are better quality. And this is something really that is at the heart of our model. It's good food. And sometimes people say you're only a service for rich people. And I often say, no, we have a level of quality. We fight for good prices, but you also need to realize that if you want to eat well, respecting your health, your body, and respecting your planet, maybe you need to reconsider your budget and give a little bit more budget to food and less budget to things that are less useful. So really, I think that this tendency that I was talking about earlier, it's going to accelerate, and also COVID is going to accelerate digitalization of the food industry. As I was saying, it's actually something that we talk about a lot, but in France, at least, the e-commerce in the food is only 3 to 5% of the market, and we think it's going to be exponential. And this is what we saw, of course, during the COVID. Our grocery store made a time 3. Sorry. So we think that people are going to shift to digital habits a lot quicker than we expected. And then on a micro level of the company, the first thing is that what changed, I think it's something in the culture of the company, because we stayed open. There was a lot of fear, but people really were together. And it's we did a lot of charity actions. So for example, we gifted 35,000 meals to people doctors in the hospitals, doctors and nurses. And we also created a network to work with I can't find my words. The NGOs that were helping people, that the poor people who didn't have anything to eat, anything. Anyway, a lot of actions, of charity actions, which was really we were proud of what we were doing, and people are really proud. We're really proud to be part of the company. We have a lot of mission and values in the company, but we had the chance to express them really for real. And right now, we exactly, you were mentioning it. We're experiencing a crisis with some of our delivery men who, because there is a, I don't have the words to explain it in English. I'm sorry, but an administrative failure. Some people who doesn't have any papers, they were able to actually create a legal company. And this is what we are facing right now, and we need to. Sorry, the law is imposing us to stop working with those people, but we need to help them to get their situation, because they helped us a lot. They helped the company. They delivered meals during the sanitary crisis, and we cannot leave them on the side.
Thank you, Julia. For those French readers who wants to know more about this, and you gave us a long interview, so people can learn more about that on our website, challenge.fr. Pascal, how digital can your business be? Is it also something you've learned from this crisis? You expect your job, your industry, to become more and more digital? In what aspect?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I'm more interested with the micro with the macro than the micro, for sure. I mean, because what we do at our company's level, it's interesting, and we're trying to apply what we think everybody should do, or try to give the right example. But at our company level, yes, it's very interesting, because in France, it's a true brick and mortar direct relation and communication with customers. We're trying to help young bakers, young artisans to open their own business and show their face and their trade and to the customer. So it's super brick and mortar. The technology there is in back office and communication and Zoom, how we can actually communicate to each other, but not really to the consumer. In the US, yes, we have brick and mortar, and then we have been looking at delivery and so forth. And we were willing to spend some decent amount of money to understand how the delivery system works for restaurants, and trying to get a little bit deeper in the existing platform that we know, like Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, and we decided that we are going to use them the way they are. It's very difficult to make them better when you are a restaurateur, and we try to look at the overall picture of those company, and basically, you have a restaurant that is going to give 20 to 30% to the platform. They are going to need to, make the food at the same time than the restaurant was open at the time. And you've got somebody that needs to deliver one dish to one person, and you've got a platform between that, and then you have a consumer. And most of the time, the consumer is going to pay more because the restaurant is going to up their prices. the driver is not going to be always very happy because he's not going to get paid a lot. The consumer is going to pay way more. So you are there, you see, okay, how can a system like that, be sustainable? And then you say, okay, at least someone needs to, be profitable there. So you say, well, those platforms are probably profitable. If everybody pays more, and then they are not profitable. So you say, oh, what's going to happen next? So we don't want to spend basically our money or try to figure out how to be better within a system that we don't believe in. So we were trying to kind of think a little bit out of the box and how we can actually imagine a system that will be closer than what it was before. When you order your pizza and the delivery was free and you get it warm within 10 minutes, it was kind of unbelievable. So I think that's what it's doing on our business. It's how can we really imagine what this could become or become again. It's kind of this idea of retro innovation. Okay, it's what did we do before that was really good, and how did we arrive to a place today that's really screwed up? Is there something in the middle or in between that we could imagine? So, we have beside taking care of our people, which is two different ways between the US and France. I mean, in France, the government takes care of our people, and the business needed to be open because we are a needed product in France, bread and this. When in the US, we had to close, and the government didn't take care of our people. So it's two different, completely two different state of mind of how to think. So between trying to solve that issue in two different continents, we had some free time to try to get some ideas of how actually we could bring or give back the restaurant delivery to the restaurant. And it's pretty interesting. And we're not here to speak about it, but on a micro level, this is what we have spent our time to. So technology is definitely a big part of the future going forward.
And just to remind you all that you can ask your questions in the chat and in the chat room and in French, whether in French or in English. This one is for you, Pascal. What are you doing differently with La Boulange food concepts post reacquiring? Anything that you learned from Starbucks that could help you now?
Oh yeah, I mean, we learned a lot. I mean, the main thing that I learned with Starbucks is that when you have a passionate person, crazy about food and customer service and bringing great food to a lot of people. I mean, Starbucks, it's 75 million transactions a week in the US. So when you can play in that garden, it's unbelievable. And when you are passionate and you can make company change from the inside tremendously. You've got to push it. You've got the tools, you've got the budget to do almost whatever you want if you have the company or the CEO behind you. And so really what I took about that experience is that it's possible to make great food at scale with value. Want to put your heart into it. I mean, really, it gave me this sense that it's absolutely possible. And we had, a ton of different demographics. I mean, 75 million people a week. You touch everybody, and able to organic style bush, organic blueberries, incredible cherry from Michigan. So I mean, start with the quality of the ingredients, and I think that's key. And one of the questions I asked them before the pre-acquisition is that I told them, is it important to have exactly the same croissant, for instance, on the East Coast or on the West Coast in the US? And they said, no, as long as it's good. So when you have a very, very large company, which is basically live and die because of the consistency of their product across the world, and they are starting to tell you, well, the croissant doesn't have to be the same as long as it's good, then you are starting to go somewhere. And So that's what really I learned from my time to Starbucks. I mean, it's possible to do great food at scale, and it's a battle, and it's also it's a very big possibilities to have large company to change their state of mind, and I think it will, and it could come from them, and you know, they're all working, I think, hard and harder to bring great food at the right price. I mean, today half of the world population, I mean, live with less than $2.50 a day. So what do you think they are going to buy? They are going to buy a large bottle of Coke, a huge pack of Doritos, and because that's, I mean, at the end of the day, that's really all they can afford. So you know, in the micro and in our little world, I mean, I think it's wonderful to be, you know, local. Shorter the delivery, work with this, but there is a much bigger problem that we need to face going forward. But everything counts. I mean, I think there is no black and white, and everything is important. Every little things that we can do to help, it counts, you know.
Yeah, you were saying, Pascal, you know, it's interesting what you were saying about, you know, scaling good food at an affordable price. But you don't eat the same croissant in San Francisco, in Paris, or in Berlin, right? Julia, what do you think about this idea of, do you have to adapt your products to your markets? I mean, we know that in France as well, we don't necessarily have the same taste in Paris, in Lille, or in Marseille. Is that something you have to take into account? You weren't yourself a cook or a baker when you launched the company. Where did you get your intuitions and your ideas?
Well, I'm passionate about good food, so from my personal interests, but I wasn't a chef. But our first employee, who is still in the company, of course, is a chef who worked in the best restaurants in France. And I right now I don't have this problem of adapting, because we only operate in Paris and around in surroundings. And we are recently opened our grocery store in France, in whole France. I mean, the rest of the territory. But I think if we were to internationalize, our whole food offer would need to change, because one of our main values is local. We wouldn't want to be the French food delivery service. We want to be the good food delivery service. So we plan when we internationalize to restart from zero our food offer. But of course, scale our processes of quality and scale different things that we can scale, our technology. But right now, we are not internationalized yet. And also, maybe this is why we haven't internationalized yet, because we have 5 years old. We raised a lot of money. We could have, but we chose to diversify our offer rather to diversify our geographies. Also, because let's face it, the food industry, it's harder to scale. We would need to rebuild the facilities, rebuild networks for food. Food buyings. So everything, and redo all our R&D on our recipes. So, and also the food industry and the food market is very large at a very little scale. So only the city in Paris, it allows you to do hundreds, maybe billions of dollars of revenue. You don't need necessarily to diversify geographically a lot to do very, very large companies in the food industry.
Pascal, you want to follow up on that? You didn't launch the same concept in France and in the US. Why?
Why? I mean, I think there are a lot of great bakers in France, you know, also. So for us to open another bakery like everybody else, it didn't make sense. I mean, the industry is doing, or was doing, just fine. So if you want to do something, you want to be able to create an alternative, you know, something different. that and not expecting necessarily that it's going to be the model going forward, just proposing something else. And so to be able to go to France and with the idea of helping younger people and financing their growth and putting them in places that they were not used to be. I mean, for instance, we signed a big deal with Auchan, and how we can open, I think the deal is 280 locations. So overnight, I mean, the time for us to roll out the stuff will become one of the biggest bakery network, you know, in France or in Europe. But the idea is to put the people where today, I don't know what's going to be tomorrow. Today, a lot of people are going. So supermarkets are between 3,000 and 15,000 customers a day. So if you want to have an impact to show a young baker, put their trade, show their face, show how they can shape the bread, put the bread in the oven, while most of the time in bakeries, they are hidden in the back. And so it's kind of a new way to look at your own artisan and to bring it in places where there are already a lot of people going. For us was key. And then we went a little further because we kind of own the places in those supermarkets. So we created a very special contract where those 30 meters carrés, 300 square foot or 400 square foot belong actually to us as a regular rental contract. So we have 7 years, or 9 years, or to be there, and we can sell the bakery within a supermarket setting. And it's not outside, it's in the supermarket setting. So we are creating what we call the artisanal value of the baker. So he is within somebody else's place, but he actually owns his own place. And so that's the kind of things that we like to do. It's thinking a little bit out of the box, pushing the boundaries, and trying to find partners that understand, what it means and what food will be in the future. And supermarket, for instance, they need to reinvent themselves, a little bit. And how do you create connection? And so sometimes it's not redoing everything from scratch. It's also how do you fine-tune already existing models, but for that you need to have the will and to do it and manage a model that you have been used to, that has been super profitable for some of them for so long. How do you have the guts to reinvent yourself based on the challenges of tomorrow? And so that's why it's not the same thing in France that it is in the US.
Thank you, Pascal. Another question from a participant. What innovation do you think needs to happen on technology and business process to make good food affordable for the masses? You answered that in part, but maybe you can be more precise in terms of.
I mean, for us, I mean, it's
you or Julia, you of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that complicated. I mean, you just need to try to break down the logistic chain, try to get closer to the customer. I think that's super important. If you can do that, it's what I was saying earlier. I mean, when I was talking about taste, it's trying for larger company, for instance, to get closer to the customer, get ingredients that are a little closer to their own market. It's very expensive to ship, and it's not only expensive, it's the carbon footprint. It's becoming huge, and I don't think going forward we'll be able to afford that any longer. It's probably if it's not too late already. I mean, there is a lot of CO2 on the atmosphere that's going to take hundreds of years to get out. So we've got to make changes as quickly as possible. It's what do you have available today? I think that's the first question. The more you can produce, I think the more efficient you could be also, or do you have to multiply smaller unit of production for the ingredients? Because it's all about the ingredients. I mean, the machinery, the industrialization of great food, it's there. I mean, the factories are there. So how do you feed the factory, or what do you feed the factory with? That's the most important stuff. And after that, you know, you can always have the question mark of, are the factory needs to be big or small? You know, do we need to multiply them or not? What's the best way to do it to avoid the waste factor, which is huge? So there is a lot of things to take care of. But for Starbucks, for us, it was to find suppliers and in different markets. They used to have 3 very large suppliers for the entire countries, including Canada. And we visited 180 manufacturers in the US, and we chose the 25, so from 3 to 25. And it was not exactly the same product everywhere, but it was a product that we were very proud of. Was it perfect? No. Was it so much better than before in terms of footprint, quality of the ingredients? Yes. So, you know, every little things, at the end of it, we knew that 75 million people that were 40% of that were consuming food at Starbucks were eating better, even without knowing it. You know, not one preservative, not one coloring or artificial flavoring. And for us, it was, I mean, it's huge. I mean, it doesn't have to be known. If you know you had an impact on how people eat, it's sometimes it's good enough, you know. But we wanted to go further. We wanted people to know. And Starbucks, because we thought we have created something very special when we were able to prove that, you know, good food at scale and value was possible. We wanted people to kind of say, oh my God, if it's possible, if they're doing it, so I mean, we should do it. We could do it. And we couldn't make Starbucks go the extra steps because it's a coffee company. It's not a food company. And they were super afraid of how the market could react, you know, and crazy.
I think Julia has something to say on. She wants to follow up on that. Open your mic. Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay, sorry, because I was trying to. Sorry, no. Sorry. On that point, I think it's a very interesting question. So totally agree with what Pascal just said. And disintermediation is one of our key principles, because this is also why we integrate so much of the value. And for example, right now we are working on disintermediating all of our buyings of fruits and vegetables, and working direct with producers. And we are gonna really better pay them and have a lot better prices that we're gonna impact on the clients, so that they're gonna have fresher products at a better price. And another thing Pascal mentioned that is key to our model is waste management. So historically, one of the answers of the industry to do food at large scale was putting preservatives, because the waste factor was so important that in order to have low prices, you needed to have preservatives so that you wouldn't waste. We are using a lot of our technology and R&D efforts to develop algorithms who help us predict the demands, have a very flexible model of stock, of production, of buying, which allows us to have the freshest products without wasting. And when we started Frischti 5 years ago, that we hadn't developed this technology. And to give you an idea, we were wasting approximately 23% of what we cooked. And today we just waste 2%, and we aim at 0 at the end of the year, because we are fine tuning and finding solutions to go to 0. So that's really important, because you cannot do fresh food if you don't manage the waste. Otherwise, you do it at a very high cost for people, and you don't address the masses.
This is another question from our participant, very futuristic and very interesting question. What do you think of the emerging alternative proteins, especially insect proteins, and opportunities in the food industry to help feed more people?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, a friend of mine, and we early investor in a company called Insect, and it's they grow insects to feed animals, you know, mainly. Yeah. To start with, and I mean, you've got to go over the fact that you are raising animals to kill them and feed other animals. So there are a lot of people that are not big fans of that. we also invested in a company in the US called the Wildest, and it's how to multiply salmon cell to create a salmon meat that has never seen the water, you know. And so how do you create the salmon cell? How do you prepare some kind of skeleton in a way that they can grow? And how can you industrialize all that? And, you know, there is the impossible food and the beyond meat. And there's a lot of things going on in terms of, you know, how do you grow or use protein going forward? And then there is a question of education and taste, because now people are trying to match a taste and a feel that we are used to know, or that protein eaters are used to know, because we were educated that way. But if you start educating children to eat any type of protein today that's not meat or whatever, they will not know the difference going further. So educated people, younger people, it's going to be interesting. But there is a lot of different things that my concern about new protein, and it's the industrialization of it, because you still need resources to build a new protein, and the world have limited resources. And if you want to industrialize it, you still need to, you know, energy. And so even if it seems that on the plant-based idea, I think it's great, because you are protecting the animal and the welfare of the animals. But in terms of cost and impact on the society and on the climate, it's not any cleaner in a way. So we've got to be very careful of which direction we are going. Sometimes it seems absolutely amazing and unbelievable, but when you start digging into it, it's you know, there are improvements to be made also.
Julia, you have something to say on new proteins, insect proteins? Same thing, same problem. Your mic, could we open Julia's mic?
Sorry, I just realized that I couldn't mute myself and then demute.
No,
so,
it's something you can't do. Once you leave, you leave. Be back.
So, no, about food innovation, actually, I'm personally more passionate about logistics innovation to bring old food to people, and like quality, you know, the quality that we used to taste 50 years ago, 100 years ago, where apples and peaches had a different taste than now when they are so modified. And so I'm really trying to use technology in terms of logistics to bring the old taste to people. And I'm not personally a big fan, but it might be the future. Maybe I'm an old person who's not, you know. But I'm really not a big fan of all these new proteins, like impossible food. You know, you have a meat which isn't meat. Like, if you don't want to eat meat, and you should eat a lot less meat or no meat, just don't eat meat. Why wanting to, you know, make a fake steak? I don't get it really. It's my point of view. I like very good products, simple products, and I see the mission, Freshty's mission, as bringing them the freshest of these products to people. So yeah, I'm not an expert on food innovation.
We're going to have to wrap up in just a few minutes. Maybe just one last question, basic one. What is your wildest dream as an entrepreneur and as an entrepreneur in the food industry? Julia, you want to start?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Your dream. What is your wildest dream as an entrepreneur in the food industry? Not insects, apparently.
Well, my dream is that this tendency that we see for good food, it becomes more and more mainstream, and that the industries evolves, and the more it grows, the more it allows people, the more the prices decrease, and the more it allows people to get access to this food. I think it will really go through a lot of innovation in the sector in terms of logistics, but also a lot of education of the customers putting light on all the know-how of people who are behind the food is really important to give value to the products that they make and yeah, re-give the taste of good food to people. So that, yeah, that's my dream.
Pascal?
Well, I mean, I guess it's pretty much the same thing. It's you know, how do you bring great food, better food, more nourishing food to as many people as possible? That's the so whatever sector or vector you want to use to do that, it's great, and try to bring you know, as many entrepreneurs behind that, you know, and change how big corporates are doing things today, and help them to bring better food. You know, I mean, there is no. We always said that it's how do you change how people eat one ingredient at a time, and one ingredient can go a very long way. And how do you do that? And you know, the more you are going to multiply the number of ingredients, great ingredients you can bring to people, the better planet you're gonna have. And you've got to think about the resources. I mean, we have a small, limited world, and the resources are as limited and small than the world we're on. So we've got to be very careful of that.
Okay, well, thank you very much for both of you. It was really interesting. All our participants for staying with us tonight, this morning. And we'll have the closing comments from Laurence. Laurence?
Yes, thank you. It was very interesting. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you, Pascal, Julia, and Gilles. Thank you to all the participants. Just so you know, the video will be on YouTube as well, so you can replay it as much as you want. And we'll give you, so the series continues throughout the summer, and I mean until September. We'll see with Gilles, but the next session is on future of education this time, with a professor from Berkeley, Grégory Leblanc, and Marie-Christine Thévenet, Levet on the French side. So we can't wait, and we're preparing all the other sessions as well. So we hope to see you soon again. You will receive an email with the replay if you want. If you have any further questions that we can send to Julia or Pascal, feel free to send it to us. And thank you very much. Thank you, Gilles.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Salut, Julia. À bientôt. Au revoir.
Bye, Pascal. Bye, Gilles.
Bon courage, bonne chance.
Bye. Thank you, Julia. Merci, Pascal.
Merci beaucoup.